Good evening. You are watching the Back Talk Bros. I am the K in back. Keys here. And on this episode of Back Talk, we are going to be going over the Chiefs and Bengals, and we're going to be looking at Chiefs and Chargers. We're going to hit the chat. We're going to talk about a whole lot more. Hang with me here. We're going to hit that intro.
Y'all ready for them Chiefs? Y'all ready for them Chiefs? Let's go! Chiefs! 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 Chiefs!
Well, happy New Year, backers. We are back and very excited right now. Chiefs coming off a tough fought win against the Cincinnati Bengals. And there's no Burrowhead this year. There's no Browninghead. It is Arrowhead, no matter what Ja'Marr Chase would tell you. So, what a great game. This is hopefully a turning point here. Dan is with us or was with us at one point here. Scott, good to see you guys. And yeah, hopefully Aaron and Gooch jump in here in a moment whenever they can. Aaron's had a habit of sleeping in. Bad boy. But yeah, we're coming off a Chiefs win against the Cincinnati Bengals. Ja'Marr Chase played, although he's injured. But L'Jarius Sneed played, and he was injured as well. And in fact, he didn't practice one day this past week. And it was really looking bleak that we were going to have a L'Jarius Sneed appearance, but he showed up. And Ja'Marr Chase had something like three receptions for 41 yards. I do not have his target numbers here, which I think would be a little bit more, provide some better context for this. So let me see if I can pull those numbers up, because people can talk about, oh, well, you know, he was 3 out of 7. Oh, not the targets number. I'm talking about snaps. Sorry about that. He had 7 targets on the game, and 3 receptions for 41 yards, something like 41 yards. And you know, people can look at it and say, well, the 4 was because he's got the injured shoulder. So he was only 3 out of 7, but how many snaps did he have? I think that's the bigger question, right? Because if you're open, the quarterback's probably going to find you and you're going to have more targets. 7 targets in this game seems kind of low, right? Listen, 3 for 41 means you're able to actually catch the ball, which would put you as Kansas City's top wide receiver. Just joking, that would put you behind Rashee Rice, but it would still put you in Kansas City's starting offensive lineup this year. 3 out of 7 for 41 yards gets you in Kansas City's starting lineup. So we're going to talk about Chase because he ran his mouth, and we're going to run our mouth too. I don't like arrogant pricks like Ja'Marr Chase. And so to see him held to 3 receptions on 7 targets for 41, whatever it was, 41, 43, it doesn't matter. A few yards doesn't make a difference here. The fact of the matter is, Ja'Marr Chase, you're a loser. Your team lost, and you didn't help them actually win in this game. In fact, I don't even know that the team looked like they really missed Ja'Marr Chase when he's been gone. T. Higgins has been balling out. So maybe there's a little Ja'Marr Chase there that, whatever. Ja'Marr Chase, we don't care about you. Denver Gators in the house. Hey, Denver Gator, you know what? There are Broncos nerds as well, and I know you're one of them. We're happy to have you with us here just poking a little fun at Jamar Chase and the triple S's out there. The second and third S stands for spaghetti slurpers, and you guys can guess what the first S stands for. But this is a family channel, at least until Gooch gets on. So, yeah, listen, no fan base or team would have been talking more trash had they won this game than Cincinnati Bengals fans. So, I'm going out of my normal here, and I'm just going to throw a little shade at them. You know, it's like you start out the week with a very stark contrast between T. Higgins and Jamar Chase talking about playing in Arrowhead. If you guys haven't heard that, I would encourage you guys to go check it out. Basically, someone took a video of both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins being asked about Arrowhead and spliced it together. And T. Higgins basically called it the best stadium in the NFL, at least the closest to playing college football. And like he had nothing but good things to say about playing in Arrowhead. And Jamar Chase kind of went kind of the opposite direction and just kind of like nonchalantly brushed it off, which is weird in a sense because, I mean, let's face it, Cincinnati might as well be playing in a pile of what their spaghetti or their chili, sorry, their chili, but they put spaghetti in it. What it's made out of. The atmosphere at Arrowhead is always great. And so what Jamar Chase said is kind of laughable. I guess he feels like he needs attention by saying ridiculous things. Like when he said that the Chiefs don't have a Jalen Ramsey on their team. And, you know, I would, if I had it here in front of me, I would pull up the defensive back metric that I had, and I should have pulled it up for you guys, that showed that he's absolutely right. Because Jalen Ramsey was pretty much in the middle of this graph. And at the very, very right upper corner, I forget who he was next to, but was none other than L'Jarius Sneed. So we don't have a Jalen Ramsey because Jalen Ramsey has been playing middle of the pack football this year. We have a L'Jarius Sneed who, sadly though, is probably going to crush it in free agency. That's the bad side of it. Is what it is. I wish I had. Let's see. Do I have it? I might have it. I do have it for you guys. Give me a second here, and I will pull this up for you guys, and you can see what I'm talking about here. So when Jamar Chase says we do not have a Jalen Ramsey, he's 100% correct, but not in the way that his arrogant trash mouth would like you guys to think. If you guys can't feel my love right now for Jamar Chase, then apparently I am failing as a YouTuber because we got nothing but love and respect for Jamar Chase. Who, by the way, once again, 3 receptions for 41 yards. All right, let me see if I can get this up here. Apparently, Aaron just woke up. So hopefully that means that he will be with us here in a second. All right, here we go. Pull this up for you guys. All right. Cornerback separation allowed and rate of lining up against number 1 wide receivers. This is coverage grade based on all snaps, not just when targeted. So, as you guys can see, let me find it. I have to squint and look towards the middle, but I know Jalen Ramsey's around here. Right here. Look, there's Jalen Ramsey. Bottom quadrant here. 25% of the time lined up against wide receiver number one. And his average separation coverage grade against wide receiver number ones is negative. What does that say? It's about negative 13.13 here. Hey, someone tell me where L'Jarius Sneed is. Oh, that's right. He's all the way over here. 40% of the time lined up against wide receiver number ones. Hey, Jamar Chase, math is hard, huh? And he's basically right at 0. Over here, L'Jarius Sneed, Joey Porter Jr. These are the two guys in the NFL who are lining up against wide receiver number ones 40+% of the time. The guys with the highest grades overall, like Shawn Wade here, are lining up against teams' number one wide receivers 10, 11-ish% of the time, which is how you get a better grade because you're not having to go against them with much volume. So, just throwing that out there. Once again, Jalen Ramsey, L'Jarius Sneed. So, when you hear Jamar Chase say that the Chiefs do not have a Jalen Ramsey, he is absolutely correct because L'Jarius Sneed is having a much better season than him. Denver Gator asks, who do you want to face first round? Who scares you the most? That's a great question. It's kind of one that I have to kind of throw some stipulations in. If the Chiefs are able to build off of what they did last week or this last week, I would say that list gets a lot smaller. Obviously right now, Baltimore is the number one team in the NFL, hands down. Baltimore and San Francisco have looked like the top two teams for multiple weeks now, and Baltimore destroyed San Francisco, so it's hard to not say Baltimore. Lamar having the speed that he has and the ability that he has with legitimate wide receivers and a legitimate offensive coordinator in Ton Monken and hey, Mike McDonald and the things he's doing with that defense, like this is a great team. John Harbaugh's teams have always been great teams. And the big thing is though, every time we've played them, these games are they're always really close games, but I don't think we played them since we traded Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek Hill was a pivotal piece in our wins against the Ravens. The backyard ball was kind of a huge factor in our wins against the Ravens. The play breaking down and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and or Tyreek Hill, those connections on pivotal third and fourth downs were huge in our ability to win those games against the Ravens. We don't have Tyreek now, and we don't have a healthy version of Travis. But at the same time, this defense with Steve Spagnuolo that he has this year is better than all of those defenses the other times we played the Ravens. And so there's some hope there. I think that if the offense continues to take steps forward, which we won't know, I'm expecting that the Chiefs are going to rest their starters. And because they're locked into the 3 seed, why would you play them? You can still take one of the advantages of the first round bye, the first round bye is getting that week Well, the Chiefs can kind of do that this next week, and I fully expect them to, but I expect the offense to continue to take a step farther for that first round matchup. Um, so I would say the Ravens. We played the Bills, and that was the first time that Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes have played in the regular season that I can remember where it was actually that close, right? And it's one play. The other years, what I recall is the Bills killing us in the regular season. So I think there's some hope there if you have to play the Bills. We beat the Dolphins already. And I think the Dolphins coming to Arrowhead. Oh, you said in the first round, so the Bills probably wouldn't matter anyway. I guess there's a chance they could come in as the 6th seed. I think mathematically still. I could be wrong on that. The Dolphins definitely could. I think there's an advantage there in that we've already beat them. Kind of know defensively how you have to handle Tyreek, which is not how the Bears handled him a couple weeks ago when they refused to play man up on these guys. And then there's like the whole Arrowhead factor of a Miami team, in theory, coming to Kansas City in freezing January. And, you know, one of the things I said on Dan's show, Dan Talks Football last night, is when Tyreek was in Kansas City, the last year or two or so, he was getting quad injuries really frequently. You know, whether it was quad tightening, some mild quad strains, like he was having quad issues fairly frequently. And you could tell some parts of the seasons where he just didn't have the same burst, especially as he was trying to get around the corner. And I think the weather played a huge part in that. And I think that's why, outside of the increased volume and, Mike McDaniel's scheme doing a great job, I think the weather still played a good part in that, right? As your joints get older, your muscles get older. If you move to Florida, there's a reason that old people retire to Florida. It's because their bodies can move better there. And so I think I think you can make a legitimate point that the Dolphins having to come to Kansas City in the middle of January helps slow that offense down. The Chiefs' physical nature of their defense slows that offense down. And I think that kind of gives them an advantage there. There's an advantage in the trenches as well. And so, the Dolphins are kind of like the Chiefs from 2019, I want to say, or so. Was it 2019, 2018? Those first 2 or 3 years there, kind of a finesse speed team. And, Chiefs fans know firsthand, we've seen it when we would play teams like the Titans and the Colts and the Patriots, some of these more physical teams, when we had Tyreek Hill, when we had Sammy Watkins, when we had more of these kind of finesse speed guys, is that it kind of really, it was way too hard for us. But yeah, I think you could even throw Cleveland in there. The Browns have looked really good. That defense is really good, and they've beaten Baltimore themselves this year. Joe Flacco's looked good. Amari Cooper's looked good from the games I've seen. And even with Nick Chubb gone, injured, like the Browns have looked like a really good team. And I think that's a team that you could say could be right there. It all really comes down to what the offense is in that game, though. If they can build off of the Bengals game, I think the answer to that question is much, much, much smaller. And might be nobody. It really might be nobody if they can build off of that, because the defense is that good. And at this point, we don't need the offense to be a juggernaut offense like we have in the past. And even as bad as the offense has been this year, it's still been top 5, top 7, top 8, top 10 in a lot of offensive categories. So as long as they mostly get the drop stuff figured out, they work on things they need to, which I would expect them to if they're treating this week kind of as a bye, like I expect them to. It's almost like nobody. That version of the Chiefs, the answer would kind of be nobody. But we haven't necessarily seen that version for more than a game or two this season. And so the answer almost becomes anybody. So it just kind of depends on how you look at it. I think is my best attempt at answering, while not necessarily answering there. But yeah, hey, what about you guys in the chat there, Dan, Scott? What do you guys think? What is your who scares you the most? And when Aaron and Gooch get on here, I'll make sure that we'll have them answer it as well. But yeah, that's kind of my thought. Is it really depends. And I'm not going to count on a Chiefs version that builds off of this last week because I'm such a huge show me person. Like, I got to see it again, but I don't think we're going to see it again this next week because I don't think we're having the starters play, or if some of them do, it's not going to be that long. Travis has to get like 16 yards to hit 1,000 on the season. I would be a little shocked if they didn't put him in. As I said on Dan's play, I would like Andy Reid to spend about 8 hours coming up with one play to get Travis about 20 yards. One really good play to force the defense's hand to get Travis in a very beneficial matchup where he can just get 20 yards and he can get his 1,000 yards and they can pull him right out. Rashee Rice needs like 67 yards, I want to say, to break, I believe, Dwayne Bowe's Chiefs rookie receiving record. But yeah, for the most part, I expect the backups to be playing in that game. So I don't think we're really going to have an opportunity unless most of the receiving core who's kind of starter-ish outside of Rashee Rice. Like, if the rest of those guys are out there, maybe we'll have a decent look of the receivers. So, but yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to disrespect the Bills, who I have as, I believe, my third ranked team right now. They have gotten things figured out. They've gotten hot at the right time. Yeah, my third ranked team. And so, I mean, Josh Allen is Josh Allen. I'm not going to discount him. I'm not going to disrespect him there. If we face the Bills again, it's always going to be hard. I have a lot of respect for the Browns as well. I have much less respect for the Dolphins. And that's because I had a lot of respect until the Chiefs played them. And I saw, what I saw from them, kind of similarly to the Eagles, was a team that didn't look as impressive. And so, yeah, I just kind of lost some respect for them and don't take them as seriously. But, well, Aaron should be with us here soon, hopefully. No word from Gooch. And yeah. What did you guys think of the Chiefs game, the Chiefs and Bengals game? Jake Browning has looked pretty good most every game that he's played in this season. I think the Chiefs defense did their job. It didn't look pretty early, but these are two teams that are very familiar with each other. I was more impressed with the Chiefs offense because Lou Anarumo is a defensive coordinator I've got a lot of respect for. And every time the Chiefs and the Bengals have played each other, Lou knows what to do against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. He's got lesser talent this year. Jesse Bates is gone. He's got a little lesser talent to work with. Not that he still doesn't have studs, but DJ Reader is injured. Jesse Bates is with the Falcons, but Lou Anarumo schematically still knows, how to throw curveballs at Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And so, listen, I to me, like, the offense being able to do what they did means more against this defense as a measuring stick than a lot of other teams, simply for that reason of Lou Anarumo knowing what to do. And the Raiders gave him a good picture of what to do, and the Chiefs were ready. Like, you can tell the Chiefs went back and looked at that Raiders game, right? It was becoming a problem. And I know a lot of Chiefs YouTubers, I know a lot of Chiefs Kingdom was kind of talking about the frustration with the offense of, we lost our deep game. Our intermediate game hasn't looked that good, and we have heavily favored the short passing game. And this is going to sound silly because usually when I make a Madden reference, it's kind of a sarcastic reference here. But if anyone who's played Madden in the last couple of years knows that one of the features, that they kind of added was or changed was like their game plan mechanism for a given week in like franchise mode, and even added in halftime adjustments for offense and defense. And it's still very basic, right? Are you going to focus on inside run or outside run or short pass, medium pass or deep pass, basically. And it has its trade-offs. If you pick the short pass, your receivers aren't going to run deep routes or medium routes as good. And it's like from the defensive side, if you play those short routes, your linebackers are, going to be sucked up towards the line of scrimmage. Like it has, it has the back and forth, and it kind of has the positives and negatives of things. It's a good start for EA Sports. But I bring it up because it's like, I could actually see a little bit of realism there, because the Chiefs were playing such a heavy short game, ignoring the deep game, that, it's like the Raiders were just setting their intermediate, and they weren't worried about the deep game. They just sat there on the intermediate routes, knowing that they were fast enough to break on the short stuff. And we weren't making catches, and we weren't making guys miss. But in this game, we saw the return of deep shots, right? And you don't have to hit every deep shot. You just have to get close enough to where the defense has to actually respect it. They have to honor that you're willing to go deep. And so I think that was one positive in this game that hopefully we continue to see now, because you can't have defenses setting on the intermediate and being willing to uh, just sit there and then react to the short stuff and not even have to worry about the deep stuff. I think we talked about this last week, but in baseball, there's a concept called pitch funneling. And the idea behind pitch funneling is that whatever pitches you have in your repertoire, fastball, curveball, slider, sinker, changeup, screwball, whatever you can throw, every single pitch looks the same from the time it leaves the pitcher's hand right up until a point like a fraction of a second away from the batter. The best pitchers in baseball can make their pitches look the same to that point. And then at the last split second, the spin that they put on it makes it break away. But the whole idea is that up until that split second, every kind of pitch follows the exact same trajectory, and then it breaks off. It goes whatever way from that spot. And that's kind of how route running needs to be. Everything is predicated on running a streak, fade, whatever word you want to use, and doing so in a convincing way, exploding off the ball as if that's what you're running. Because when you take off from the line of scrimmage that aggressively, you force the defensive back to have to do it as well, because they got to honor the deep ball. And if they have to honor the deep ball, that makes them have to hesitate for every other route. One reason why Andy Reid, I believe, likes his receivers to have a fairly robust route tree, right, is because the bigger your route tree, the more of a threat you are to the DB. You can run multiple routes off of your stem, off of running your streak. But the problem was, right, the DB could set there intermediately. They didn't have to worry about anyone going deep, so they could sit there and let it play out. They could watch until the last possible second, and then they could react to it, because like you're cutting off this whole possibility, so you can wait to this point and then react, because everything's staying in front of you, because we weren't calling anything deep. And that changed in this game. We didn't connect on all of them. We came close enough on the ones we didn't connect to where they had to honor that, and it makes you slower to everything else. Hello, Mrs. Keys. Ooh. Hey, Liz, glad that you're with us. Happy New Year to you as well. I've been waiting for my hat for a year now, Liz. Listen, I've been pulling out the New Year's dad jokes the last couple of days. Those are low-hanging fruit for dad jokes, so I'm going to take advantage of them every chance I get every year. Not much gray. Well, I'm glad I'm a little disappointed you can see the gray. I don't see any gray on here. But yeah, I like to think with all the kids I have that I'm doing pretty good in the gray department here. Too bad Gooch can't say that. Yeah, and he doesn't even have the kids or the wife to give him the gray hairs. So I hope Hannah's not actually listening. But yeah, this is all Hannah. I guess that large lumberjack energy is like a big thing right now. So told me she wants me to look like a lumberjack. So here I am letting the beard grow out. We'll see how long it lasts. Everybody in the chat being friendly together there. While you're doing so, guys, let us know. Denver Gator asked, who do you want to face in the first round and who scares you the most? So, guys, let me know in the chat. Let Denver Gator know in the chat. Who are you guys wanting to see in the first round and who scares you the most to have possibly see in the first round? And yeah, I know Liz got Aaron awakened. He's still trying to wake up, though. I forgot to text Aaron, though, Liz. So, little bit of a sad story from work today. There's this dog on my route, and he liked to follow the boys at this stop on and off the bus. And one night after they got off, he jumped on and he ran to the back of the bus and he came back and then he sat down like right next to me, or she, and then peed on the bus there. And I had to clean it up. And so like every time since I let her get on the bus, she would keep trying to get on the bus. And tonight when I was taking the boys, dropping them off at their house, I'm getting ready to turn in the driveway and I look ahead and I'm like, hey, isn't that your dog? Just like laying there in the road ahead of us, dead. And it's just like, it's hard for me, especially, not just because the dog was on my bus and it was such a nice dog, but just a really sweet dog. But one of the things my dad did when I was, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 years old or so, was on top of the other stuff he did, he was also a substitute bus driver. And one day, one of our dogs ran under the bus as he was coming up our road. And so, like, I've never forgotten that. Like, this didn't happen. I didn't run over the dog. I would be way more broken up if I had done it, but it's, it's still a thing because it makes me, remember that back then. And so, I mean, I feel bad for the boys. And like I said, it was just a sweet dog, but yeah, it happened like at the end of my work day too. So then I got to drive all the way back the rest of the way thinking about it. So it kind of sucked. I was going to share it with Aaron, but I knew he wouldn't be awake, and then I kind of forgot. But yeah. Scott says, not to just transition here, but Scott says, I'm scared of MVS still being thought of as a key facet of this offense and that he's going to get relevant targets in action. Like, if it's in the Chargers game, I don't care, Scott. I hope that MVS plays a lot in the Chargers game. I hope that Sky Moore's on IR, right? I don't know if this is going to be the game that we ease McCole Hardman in. I hope they can get Richie James going by getting him involved. I hope they throw Justin Ross out there. Like, this is what I'm hoping for in this game. After they get Travis the 14, 16 yards that he needs to get his 1,000-yard season. Like, this is my hope. Like, when the reports came out last week that the Chiefs were simplifying the offense and were tweaking the fact that they were rotating too many receivers in, I was happy because my first thought was no MVS. And then I saw a report like a day or two before game day talking about how I think it was James Palmer or someone talking about how Patrick Mahomes was so optimistic about he and MVS and the work that they were putting in to fix their connection. And it was just like such a trying to build up MVS, and I'm like, oh crap, they're gonna play MVS a bunch in this game. So Scott, you're not alone in that, but if they do it in this game against the Chargers, I'm going to be fine with it because, uh, at this point, I could be wrong, but I'm convinced that this is going to be a backups game and that the Chiefs are going to treat this game basically as a bye that they're not going to get. It's like, and I brought this up last week, and it's not like the main excuse because there's like 15 things wrong with the offense. But this team played the toughest schedule the first half of the season, and then the last 6 games of the season are finishing with a negative net rest disadvantage. So you play the hardest stretch of the schedule in the whole NFL the first half of the season, and then the last half you have absolutely absurd stretch of having less rest than your opponents. The Chiefs are tired on top of everything else they have going on. The Chiefs are tired. I really think that this is a bye week, basically. So I'm not expecting the Chiefs to beat the Chargers, but I am expecting them to give the receivers like MVS, Richie James, McCole Hardman. I'm expecting, if you want to throw out Justin Watson, but I don't think there's really a point to, I think this is the game for them to get a higher volume, let them screw up, let them hopefully learn from some of their mistakes. So, but yeah. And if you guys came late, make sure you go back so you can check out my Jamar Chase rant. I don't normally get into verbally get into talking about players, but he's just such an annoying little whiner. And then the trash talk he did, then he said something about, if he didn't put up good numbers, that, hey, he can't throw himself the ball either. So it's like he wants to talk a bunch of trash, but then say, hey, if my money can't back up what my mouth is saying, it's because of my quarterback. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. So defense had some struggles early on. That's kind of been a little bit of the theme the last 4, 5, 6 weeks or so. But I think there's an extent to where, as Chiefs fans, we can exhale a little bit, right? Because you have to realize that the teams that we are playing offensively and defensively, those teams are getting away from their tendencies against the Chiefs. They're getting away from their tendencies offensively and defensively. So you have Andy scheming for what a defense has shown, throughout the season. And Pat's watching film and he's watching, what these defenses have done all season. But then they're switching it up for the Chiefs, which I think is a respect for, good coaching to an extent. And, Pat, you know, as the defense against our offense, but it is a factor when you're expecting a team to come out and play you this way, because it's how they played everybody else. And you game plan for it, because what else are you going to game plan for? Are we supposed to just start game planning for the opposite of what they're doing all season? But it's happening on the other side too. You have Spags game planning for offensive tendencies, and then the other team is coming out on offense and they are breaking their tendencies against the Chiefs. And so, as much as there's a slow start there with our defense the last few weeks or so, I think that you can accredit it a little bit more to that. And I'm not sure what the answer is there. Scott, good to see you. We have two Scotts in here. I'll leave it up to you guys to decide which one is the great Scott. I'm old enough here that I can make a reference back to a Back to the Future movie. But yeah, I don't know what the answer is outside of being a little bit more adaptable as an offense and adaptable as a defense. And maybe you do try to anticipate earlier that a offense or defense is going to get away from their tendencies. And I mean, easy for me to say, but to have the energy and the focus to do that, like, you can't build two different game plans every week. But I do think that the more versatile you are, the better position that puts you in. So I do hope that the offense takes another step forward. I don't think we're going to have an answer to that after this game. It's nice, at least, though, to see the offense being like the aggressor. Like, you can't let the defense dictate your terms. Like, you have to dictate the terms to the defense. So that was good to see. Harrison Butker, after having 2 straight weeks in a row of missing a field goal after going the whole freaking season without missing a field goal or extra point, kicked 5 field goals in this game. Leading scorer on the team for this game, came up clutch. So kudos to him. Richie James had a good return. And then he had that terrible return at the goal line. I saw on Twitter that he said, and I don't know what the play specifically, the punt return call was, but I saw that he said that, take it for whatever it's worth, that he predetermined that if they did that return, that he was returning it no matter what. I personally kind of hate that thinking of I'm doing it no matter what, because I think you still have to have the situational awareness and the impulse control to do the right thing there. Not do something that could be absolutely disastrous. And so hopefully Tobe and Richie James kind of had a good discussion this last week. And kudos to Tobe for recognizing that he had to tone down his aggressive nature this year when it came to returns. This offense is not built that way. The way this offense has looked most of the season, basically most returns were detrimental to this team. It's not a team that if you don't get it out to the 20 or the 25, wherever your kick return, touchback, or fair catch is, or your punt return, touchback, wherever those are, the 2025, this Chiefs offense needs to be able to start there, not at the 10, not at the 5. Every yard matters this season. Every possession has mattered this season. And so kudos to Tobe for making the adjustment there. Maybe that came from Andy at the bye, whatever it was. They made an adjustment there and got less aggressive with their return game, which has helped put the offense in better positions. The game is what it is. Like, there's good, there's bad. We're moved on to the Chargers. There's not a whole lot to talk about the Chargers, though, simply because, we expect this to be a backups game. So, I mean, what is there really to say there other than that you hope for and want to see the backups ball out in this game? There's Gooch, the self-proclaimed great one.
Not self-proclaimed, baby. Other people are saying it too. You're on the Dan show. You heard him. What's up, Scott? I'm only here for a minute, man. New year, new stuff to do. I was just like, I didn't want to miss it. How's it going?
Hey, Gooch. So earlier on, Gooch, Denver Gator asked, basically, who would you like to see in the first round, and who scares you the most to have to see the possibility of seeing in the first round?
No, I don't want to see the Browns. No, I really think we can move the ball on offense and stuff like that. We can, but Cleveland's defense is just as good as ours. And the Browns offense is playing a lot better with Flacco. Like, I really think we could run with the Bills, and I don't think their defense, if we're moving the ball half as good as we moved against the Bengals, they don't beat us. And if the Dolphins have to come to KC, I mean, if we went to Miami, that'd be different. Like, I don't want to see Miami in Miami, but they got to come to Kansas City. I think we beat them. But I do not want to see the Browns at all. Not with this receiving core and the way it's playing. I do not want to see them.
Yeah, I mean, Myles Garrett going up against Wanye Morris would give me nightmares. Even Jawan Taylor. Like, the amount of help. And I think Andy would be good for the most part at giving whoever it is help. But yeah, it would probably give me nightmares. Listen, I think that, and I texted you guys a couple of weeks ago, when I watched the Browns, who were they playing? I don't even remember now, Gooch. But it was like the day that I watched, I think I had my multi-view on and watched 2 or 3 games. And so I was watching CeeDee Lamb, and I was watching Amari Cooper, and I was watching Justin Jefferson over the span of a day or two, and Mike Evans, I think. And I'm just like, Patrick Mahomes needs a receiver like these guys, because you can put it in a tight window and they will go get it for you.
That was the Bears game. The Browns were playing the Bears, and Amari went off for like 220, whatever it was, or 196, whatever it was. It was a Browns record. It had to be over 200 because Josh Gordon had the record. But, yeah, we were talking about that after that game because Flacco hit Amari in this crazy window down the sideline, and he ran up the sideline for a touchdown. We were talking about it right at that time.
Yeah, and Flacco, I think he makes and I'm not saying that Flacco's look bad. I'm not saying that at all. But I think he helps Flacco look better than he is, while not saying that Flacco looks bad. But, my question would be, and I haven't seen a lot of Browns games. I've seen a few, and that was one of them. My question would be, though, right, if L'Jarius Sneed is healthy, we've seen what he's done against number one receivers. Obviously, he's not doing it without help. If Spags' defense could successfully take away Amari Cooper, like, are you still afraid of the offense? Because I think I'm more afraid of their defense, especially their defensive line going against our offensive line, our tackles.
That is a valid point, especially with Myles Garrett on that end. Like, even going against Juwan Taylor still give me nightmares. But yeah, because their offense is what we want. I'm not saying it's what we wanted to see out of ours, but if you take away Amari Cooper, has anybody noticed Njoku is like beasting it up right now? Like he's their Travis Kelce. You know what I'm saying? And let's face it, our linebackers are good coming downhill. We don't have anybody to run with that dude in coverage in our linebacking core, and our corners are way too small to go one-on-one with him.
Joshua Williams?
He's tall, but he's not. I don't think he's big enough. Like, he shrugged off a hit in the leg from one of those Bears defenders on a play and like spun off of him and just kept running. Like, I don't know. It's just hard for me because I also think they're playing with like Flacco's. They're playing with FU money. Like, nobody expected them to get here. There's no pressure. There's no expectations. And so he's just kind of chucking it. You know what I'm saying? And they're playing with house money. You know what I mean? And that makes them dangerous because they're supposed to fall apart. They've gone through 4 quarterbacks. Joe Flacco came off the couch 4 weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I'm scared to play them, because they really don't have anything to lose. Like, they weren't expected to get to the playoffs, and so they can play with reckless abandon. And if I was, and not even just the Chiefs, like, I fear for any team that has to play them, right? Because of that reason right there. I mean, it doesn't even have to be the Chiefs. They could be the 5 seed and play whoever the 2 seed is. And I would, 2 gets 7, doesn't they? Whoever the 4 seed is, Jacksonville, whatever. If it's Jacksonville Browns or Texans Browns, I worry about them too, because the Browns probably going to win that game. You know what I'm saying?
As I said earlier, the Ravens are the 1 seed, and they've beaten the Ravens this year. Well, this season. Right? They beat them 33-31 in November.
That whole division is beat up on each other.
And that was in Baltimore. So, yeah, they can hold their own. Because I have the Ravens as the best team in the NFL right now.
When they beat the Ravens, that was without Flacco.
All right.
I mean, and Flacco is nowhere near Mahomes or Lamar or we'll stop there. But the one thing he still does that he's shown is he has a cannon for an arm. And he is not afraid to put it in places that a lot of quarterbacks won't. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a prime example, like, he doesn't care if he throws picks, he's going to throw the ball. You know what I mean? And he still has the gun. But I don't know. The Ravens, the Ravens is the best team. I still have the Niners, but one of the Avengers is hurt. So we'll see how that goes. I know McCaffrey has that calf injury or whatever. But I don't think Flacco will be scared of that defense. Not the Ravens defense. And in all honesty, I don't think Lamar and them have really been tested this year. Well, that's a lie. They beat San Francisco. So you can't, not only beat them, they stomped the mud over them and walked it dry. And I watched that game and was like, whoa.
I mean, if you want to make,
I would
there was
line the
what?
Chiefs up against the Ravens right now, and I would bet on the Chiefs. And it was Chiefs Ravens. Chiefs Bills, Chiefs Dolphins, Chiefs Texans, Chiefs Browns. I wouldn't take the bet. No.
There was like, I want to say 5 interceptions in that game.
5. Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could chalk some of it up to luck. There's not going to be very often in the NFL that you're going to get 2 interceptions, let alone 3, 4, 5 interceptions. So I don't know. I guess
a lot of it has to do with the fact that first of all, Lamar is like, I don't know, 13-0 against the NFC whenever he plays them. Like, if he was an NFC quarterback, he'd probably be the greatest of all time because he hasn't lost to an NFC team in his whole career. But I also think that the NFC is weaker than the AFC, and there's a lot of smart defensive coordinators, and they just switched it up on Purdy. Like, he showed him stuff he had never seen before. You know what I'm saying? And they got to him, which is what when we discuss defensive coordinators, we do it all the time. You're the first one to say it. That is what good defensive coordinators do. They do in-game adjustments and major halftime adjustments, and then come out and shut you down. You know what I'm saying? You talk about that all the time.
Hannah says she doesn't know what it is. So what is it, Gooch? I think she saw your whatever it was here before it.
That makes me the great one. You know? First of all, it's confidence. I think anybody and everybody should consider themselves the great one at whatever they do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am a firm believer in self, and everybody should be. You know, it's not just me. Like, you should legit have that kind of, I say confidence, but it should be borderline arrogance about yourself. You know, like, I'm great at whatever I do. I'm great at my job. I'm great driving a car. I'm great cutting grass. I don't cut grass, by the way. I pay somebody to do that. I'm great at like, and I just, you know, it's self affirmation. You know what I'm saying? And I want that for everybody. Like, if you're Hannah, you're at work, you're the greatest manager. Like, you know what I'm saying? Walk with that aura. You know what I mean? Like, people don't question it. Like, I can walk into any Domino's, not in Domino's gear, and people automatically assume that I might be important. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just walk around. It's just a confidence thing is all. I don't think I am actually better than anyone personally or spiritually. But when it comes to certain things that I do, I think I'm better than everybody.
And is it one of those things where it doesn't really matter if you're not the best? That the point is you should have the mentality and carry yourself in such a way?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I know for a fact that even in doing what I do, there are people that are better than me. And I will even tell other people like that. That there's a girl that I trained for a long time. She is just now 21. I tell her all the time, we're all going to work for you someday. You're that good. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to myself, like, no, you can't tell me anybody's better than me. You know what I mean? But that's just, I think the world would be a lot better place if everybody just got along and everybody held themselves in higher accord. You know what I mean? Like, I say it all the time with you guys. Like, I tell you and Aaron, you guys are the smart ones. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that. But I still feel like I'm one of the best things on this channel.
Yeah, I think when we talk about the great one, my mind goes to Michael Jordan, the basketball GOAT. Not just the confidence that he carried, but the fact that he knew he was the greatest and he still worked like he wasn't, if that makes sense. Like he was still hungry.
Yeah,
Maybe not that he worked like he wasn't, but that he feasted on greatness.
right. See,
And
the thing is he was great by our eyes and other basketball players' eyes and stuff like that. And in his mind, he's telling himself, "I'm great," but finding all the things that he needs to work on to be better. There's always striving to be better than what he is. You know what I'm saying? That's the mentality you gotta have, and it's a good one. And you can do it without his version of tough love, I guess. Like there's a way to do it and still be uh, not as harsh on the people around you. You know what I'm saying? To bring them along or whatever up to what your standard is. But I mean, that's. I thought Dub was coming.
me too, but he said he had to wake up. He's awake, but he's not awake yet.
That kid's always sleeping. He works nights. I can't fault him for that. All right, so I gotta run, finish this up. Great seeing the guys. Hannah will deliver that. It'll be sometime this year for sure, because I gotta come get the boy and take him to a Chiefs game, in the box and everything like that. I owe him that.
I've been hearing that.
Yeah, well, I'm back now, so we'll have to
That
get
would
that.
make
We'll have to get that.
that would make you the great one, Gooch. If you did that, that would make you the great one.
Hey, I'm gonna take care of it. Everybody
Especially if we
safe.
parachute in there
Oh yeah, absolutely.
from your private jet.
Happy New Year, everybody. I gotta get. I see you.
All right, take it easy, Gooch. Hopefully Aaron jumps back on here at some point, but had Gooch with us, and maybe he can get back here again at some point. But yeah, Maui, glad you're with us here. Maui says MJ is and always will be. Yeah, it's hard to imagine someone getting there and surpassing that greatness. It's probably going to happen at some point, right? That's just like the way human nature is. What is it? It's like the sub 4-second mile, right? It's something that nobody could do until the first guy broke a sub 4-second mile. And then after he did it, the amount of people doing it afterwards over the years is just kind of insane. But until he did it and proved it could be done, nobody else was doing it. Wait, I said sub 4-second mile. That's clearly ridiculous. Sub 4-minute mile. Sub 4-minute mile, not 4 seconds. That would be really fast. But yeah, until someone broke that sub 4-minute mile, like nobody was doing it. It's the fact that afterwards, once people saw that the goal was attainable, right? Then they knew, one, they believed in themselves, kind of like what Gooch was talking about there. But then people started to do it. And, I think it's going to happen on every level. It's a little bit harder depending on what you make the metrics for whatever the sport is. Obviously, we're talking about, track and field or whatever, and we're talking about a very specific metric. It's just running a sub 4-minute mile with a clearly defined objective goal. Whatever the fastest time is, you simply run faster, right? In sports, we try to protect our guys. Like Tom Brady is probably going to be protected by those who say he's the GOAT, in that the metric for that will be Super Bowl ranks. It is extremely difficult in today's NFL, especially more so now. Tom Brady was married to a rich supermodel So he was willing to take less money, much less money for more rings. And if Dan was in the chat here, he'd tell you that he's pretty sure that Robert Kraft and Tom Brady had some shady stuff going on with throwing money at Brady via TB12 and his company there. But like the whole idea is if you try to say you cannot be the GOAT quarterback unless you have X many rings and that's your factor, you're doing it because you know that realistically it's probably not going to happen in today's NFL, and it has no bearing on if you're a better quarterback, right? It's like one of the ways we know that it can't simply be about rings is because Eli Manning has 2 Super Bowl rings. Both of those rings came against Tom Brady. He's 2-0 against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, which is another pet peeve when people want to use head-to-head records as if Eli Manning single-handedly beat Tom Brady and it was just those two playing, right? But Eli Manning's Giants were 2-0 against Tom Brady's Patriots in the Super Bowl. Would we say that Eli Manning is a better quarterback than Tom Brady? Hell, would we say that Eli Manning is a better quarterback than Dan Marino? Would we say Trent Dilfer is a better quarterback than Dan Marino? Trent Dilfer has a Super Bowl ring. But that's what people want to use because they want to protect Tom Brady. Now, Michael Jordan is a completely different animal, right? And part of that is because basketball is a completely different animal. Hey, listen, you talk about Michael Jordan, and there's no chance that Aaron isn't going to join. Aaron, we're glad to have you on here. Right now, we're talking about Michael Jordan and how he's the greatest of all time. So it makes sense that you joined us. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good.
Caught me off guard how loud it is. Yeah. Obviously got a new headset and yeah, it's extremely loud.
Yeah. Liz, get you that?
Yep.
Yeah, we were talking about Michael Jordan's greatness, and I was getting ready to talk about how basketball is a different animal in that you actually play, unless you're LeBron James and other players, but at least in the 90s, you play both ways. You play offense and you play defense. And Michael Jordan didn't just have rings. He had clutch shots. He had game-winning shots. He had MVPs. He had Offensive Player of the Year. He had defensive hardware. Like, he had everything, right? Some years he was the steals leader. Some years he was assist lead, maybe not assist leader, but he has the numbers all around. So
yeah, he was definitely shooting the ball, taking it to the basket because he could jump over anybody or into them.
Just crazy. Like,
I don't think there was anybody better in any sport. They call Wayne Gretzky the great one, and yeah, for that sport, I don't know much about hockey, so I really can't say.
Yeah.
I go to the little local team. It's been a while, but there's a little semi-pro team not far away from me. It's a fun time. Cheap fun time like the Royals used to be. But yeah, Jordan is the best I've seen with any sport.
Well, there's a mix with Jordan, right? Where it was freakish athletic ability, but he also had the drive, the dedication, I mean, he had the mental part of it, the the emotional part of it. He had everything, right? Like, um, this is not a good comparison, but someone I'm thinking about is actually Tyreek Hill, as far as he has the athletic ability and he had the drive to make himself great. Not that he's the greatest receiver of all time, right? But because as Gooch would say, that's Jerry Rice. But he didn't exactly, imagine Jerry Rice with Tyreek Hill's athletic ability and Jerry Rice hitting on that extra, ceiling because of that. And that's kind of Michael Jordan.
Right.
And it's like, that's why, to me, like, my comparison has always been for Patrick Mahomes is kind of Michael Jordan. He's not there yet because Patrick Mahomes has stuff in his game he still has to work on and he has to perfect. And I'm not sure that he has that gear in his drive to do that or get there. But Patrick Mahomes has an athletic ability to make plays, to make the spectacular like Jordan did, right? A lot of the plays that Jordan can make on offense or defense, like I think like a month and a half or so ago, my kids were getting ready to watch Space Jam, and I made them watch highlights of Michael Jordan for about 30 minutes before I would let them watch Space Jam, just so they could appreciate who they were watching on Space Jam. And the one play that I knew was going to get my daughter, who loves basketball, was the one where Jordan hits the rebound, when he's all the way out, all the way back behind the arc, and he hits the rebound and dunks the rebound in. And it's like, having that kind of ability, the closest I've seen in a quarterback is Patrick Mahomes, right? Tom Brady's the exact opposite of that. He's like, I don't know, is Larry Bird a fair comparison? Is that disrespectful to Larry Bird?
Larry Bird was like 6'10", though.
I mean, like, as far as like Tom Brady was kind of a athletically boring dominant player, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like,
definitely does to me. He is not exactly an athlete. He's got the dad bod going and everything since college.
Yeah. I think he toned it a little bit, but
it was pretty big back then. I worked out a lot. I lost a lot. Sorry, Liz.
Well, Aaron, I kind of already talked about my assessment of the Bengals game and my belief that the Chiefs are going to try to kind of cheat the Chargers as a bye week. But if you want to go ahead and talk about your thoughts of the Bengals game and your thoughts of the upcoming Chargers game, go ahead and go for it.
Bengals game. I think we should
New Year's Eve
dominated them more. Yeah, I was drinking a bit. It's been a while since I've done that.
It was last year, so.
And we're it's the 3rd.
Yeah, we're on the 3rd. When did you stop drinking? Let me ask that.
Ooh.
In case your employer's watching, do not answer.
Scott Farage. He was in the chat. He'd be able to tell you better than me, probably. We left his house.
Scott, if you're still in the chat, let us know.
Even though they're 2 doors down across the street. We drove over there. Liz and Val had to run to the liquor store real quick. So we drove over there. Which I always find funny. I usually walk home, but it was freaking cold. Yeah, I wish we would have dominated them more. I think we still had a really good performance, but there's always room for improvement. And when you're going against a third string quarterback, I know he's looked a hell of a lot better than that, and that makes me think it's more scheme than Joe Burrow. So who's the offensive mind over there? Is it the head coach?
Yeah, Zach Taylor is part of that Sean McVay, that kind of group of guys. Their offensive coordinator is Brian Callahan, I believe, who was part of I want to say Peyton Manning's coaching staff in Denver. Like he was like a quarterback coach or something back then. I can look it up really quick, but that's kind of his connection because through Brian Callahan, Burrow has had a relationship with Peyton Manning, is my understanding. So kind of getting him to, help him work.
Really?
Yeah, let me double check it here.
Well, you do that. I'll say hi to everybody. Hey, Liz, Hannah, Scott Province, Scott Farage, if you're still there.
Yeah, so
Maui. Go ahead.
He was a coaching assistant with the Broncos in 2010. Then 2011 through 2012, it says offensive quality control coach. And then 2013 through 15, it just says offensive assistant. Then he spent 2016 and 17 with the Lions as quarterbacks coach, the Raiders in 2018 as quarterbacks coach, and he's been the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati since 2019. And he is the son of Bill Callahan, who you may remember.
I didn't know that.
And so, who is what? He's currently, offensive line coach for the Browns. Bill Callahan, that is. So, that's interesting. You have father and son in the same division. But so that's Brian Callahan there. So you had that Peyton Manning connection from his time in Denver during those years. So Callahan kind of learned that offense. He was there the whole time Peyton Manning was in Denver. So, but between him and Zach Taylor, that's the offense for sure.
Okay. So it sounded like more scheme than Burrow is great.
Well, and
your third string quarterback can do what the first string guy is doing.
And I mean, the thing is like even the scheme though, what's that scheme going to look like if you take away, like you have Chase and Higgins and Boyd, like if you start taking away, one or two studs, like, what's it look like? But, to an extent over the scheme itself, like I've seen Browning make some pretty good throws to where, I think it's just as much him as it is scheme, but you also have Browning throwing some and his receivers who are really good making some great catches themselves. But yeah, I mean, Browning's stats for this year He has a 69.9% completion percentage. He's thrown for 1,780 yards, has 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, but I think 3 of those came a couple of weeks ago. Was that the Steelers game, if I'm recalling correctly? And
That
so
sounds right.
yeah, I think it was the Steelers game. He had like 2 or 3. It was a very uncharacteristic game for him.
Well, TJ Watt running
Yeah.
after him all game, that'd screw me up for sure.
Yeah, there we go. 3 interceptions in that game.
I assume caused by pressure.
Yeah, 3 sacks, 3 interceptions, and had a QBR of 26.
And we were getting to him pretty well.
Yeah, the Chiefs sacked him 6 times, but he had 1 touchdown and no interception. So I mean, you can give him some kudos for that, right? He didn't have any interceptions in the game. We did sack him 6 times though. So and he ended up with the second highest QBR of the season for what that's worth. So, but yeah, I think it's a mix of everything. But
Was Liz, were you even a Girl Scout? I don't even know that. Or a brownie or whatever. Was brownie when you're young?
yeah, I think so. I think that's like what was it? When I was a kid, that's like was it like Tiger Scouts or something? I think brownie is the equivalent to that. I don't even know what they do anymore.
It was Cub Scouts. At least it was in Chicago. That might be why.
Yeah, Scott, it's not me, it's Gooch. It's Gooch. It's Gooch that she's not nice to.
They just love talking shit to each other. It's funny. No one needs to know my business.
Let me say this, Liz, as far as Girl Scout honor goes, right? I don't think I have to worry about this because the chances of my sister ever watching the show. My niece was a Girl Scout, and when it came cookie time, there was a year where she ate everybody's cookies. So that's as far as Girl Scout honor goes, Liz.
I did that with baseball. The caramel chocolate candy bars that they used to have.
Yeah.
I don't know what they did to those, but they aren't the same. They were fucking amazing back then. And I couldn't help myself. So yeah, we were supposed to sell them, so my parents ended up having to put money in. I'm sure they were happy about that.
It's one way to make sure you get your money is to eat them so your parents have.
I did sell some, but I ate way more than that.
And that's the bad thing. My niece sold all the cookies, right? She just ate it. When the cookies came, she ate everybody's orders.
Man. Can't say that I wouldn't want to.
Is it going to be Gooch's hand in a box? I don't know if I should be scared or happy.
Liz always asks me how many Thin Mints I want. I say all of them. So she gets me a couple boxes.
Anna, if you're still listening, that would make a great shake.
That it would. Pretty sure I've had that kind of shake.
I think we got to wait a couple months for that, though, don't we?
I got a mint chocolate chip cake my mother-in-law just got me. I need to eat. Sorry, I'm hungry. I think dinner's on the way.
Yeah, me too. So here, let me throw this up for you, Aaron. I answered it. Gooch answered it before he left.
Hey, Denver Gator.
I don't know if Denver Gator's still with us, but he was here earlier and asked, who do you want to face in the first round, and who scares you the most to face? I guess it doesn't say in the first round, but first round or whatever. So who do you most want to face in the first round?
Are we most likely to play the Dolphins or Buffalo?
It kind of depends on what teams win this weekend. Namely in that matchup, right? If the Bills win, I think there's a good chance at the Dolphins. Let me pull up the playoff machine here.
I kind of want to play Buffalo just to pay them back. We should have won that game. Of course, we got to have our crap together.
Can I share this without us getting a copyright strike? We're going to find out.
Well, it's not a recording, so.
Well,
I don't know. It's a good question.
Disney and the NFL can't be they can't be that different. They're both pieces of crap as far as stuff like this. So, very briefly here, if we put the Steelers winning, which could happen because the Ravens are most likely resting their starters, right? They have the number 1 seed locked up.
Was that who you said was the best in football right now?
Ravens, yeah.
And I'd have to agree with that.
So if the Steelers win that game, Texans, Colts, who do you think is going to win that one?
Ooh, depends on which team shows up. I'd like to say the Texans, but Indy's been on a roll.
Liz says the Texans. All right, we can skip that. That's an NFC team, yeah. All right, Browns at Bengals.
The microphone's too good.
I think that one's pretty much going to be the Brown. Well, they're locked into the 5th seed. They might rest their starters as well. Right? I'm pretty sure the Browns are locked in as the 5th seed. So they might rest their team as well. And then if they rest...
Are the Bengals out now?
The Bengals are eliminated, yeah.
Okay.
So I put the Bengals, though, because I'm pretty sure, someone in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the Browns are locked in as the 5th seed, just as the Chiefs are locked in as the 3 seed, and the Ravens are locked in as the 1 seed. So this isn't a game that matters to the Browns. So, and the Bengals are eliminated, so it's not like it's really going to matter for them whether they lose to the Bengals or not. So I'm going to say they rest their starters and the Bengals win that game. But Jets and Patriots, neither team really has offense. So
I think it's going to be Browns handing the ball off a lot then. Who do they hand it off to? Hunt?
Or whoever the backup is.
My alarm's going off.
Jags at Titans. This game absolutely has playoff implications because I want to say if the Jags lose this game, then it's going to be either the Texans or Colts, no matter what, as the 4 seed. All 3 teams are tied, I believe. And so if the Jags lose, the Texans are your 4 seed. But if the Jags win, they're the 4 seed no matter what. So Jags or Titans, who do you think is going to win that game?
I don't know what happened to the Titans this year. I have to go Jags.
Yeah, but as Dan pointed out last night, they're always tougher at home. And, they're playing in Tennessee, and they're always a physically tough team.
Absolutely.
I think that one could really go either way. I have the Chargers winning because I think we're resting our starters in this game. But, I mean, if Brandon Staley was there, there's still a chance we could have won, even resting our starters. Broncos at Raiders. Both teams are eliminated from the playoffs.
Are they?
Yes. It doesn't matter who wins that game. They're both, I am 99.9% certain both are eliminated from the playoffs. So I'll just select the Raiders here because I don't think it matters. And the last one is Bills at the Dolphins. And this is the one that I think matters the most. Because if you pick the Dolphins to win, right? If the Dolphins win, if the Steelers win, I don't think it matters with, it doesn't matter with the Texans versus Colts game. But if the Dolphins and the Steelers win, Buffalo is eliminated.
Steelers and Dolphins win. Buffalo's out.
Right. If the Dolphins win, but the Ravens win, Buffalo is the 7th seed, is what it's showing.
But if Miami loses, they're the 6th seed.
Let's see. All right. So, all right, here's what we have up here. We have if the Ravens win, okay? If the Ravens win, all right, that's what I got here. If the Ravens win and the Jags win, Miami can win and Buffalo will still be the 7th seed.
Now you get into all the crazy scenarios.
So Buffalo doesn't need to win. They really just need the Ravens to win to make the playoffs.
Because they're playing the Steelers. Okay.
Right. But if Buffalo wins, that gives them the number 2 seed. So if the Ravens win, Buffalo is in the playoffs. It's just a matter of 2 seed, 6 seed, or 7th seed. Wait, did I say that all wrong? Yeah, they just need the Ravens to win. If the Ravens win, no matter what, Buffalo is in the playoffs. Now, here's where it gets funny, right, Gooch? Or sorry, Aaron. I don't know why I was thinking of Gooch there. But here's where it gets funny, Aaron. Because if you're the Ravens and you know that if you win, Buffalo is in, are you going to actually try to win this game? Would you try to win this game and let Buffalo into the playoffs?
I'd say Buffalo's slipped this year. So I don't think they're scared of them or anything. I don't think they care either way. They're just going to try and get some work and see what they've got in their younger guys at this point in the season. So I don't know that they're necessarily trying to win, but they're not trying to lose. But that'd be interesting for them to try and throw a game. I know Vegas would get upset.
Well, yeah, I don't think it really matters at the end of the day because Buffalo, if they beat the Dolphins, they would still be the 2 seed. So at that point, it wouldn't matter. But if the Ravens win, it guarantees, no matter what, that the Bills are in the playoffs. And I still think that teams see them as a scary enough opponent, especially the way they played at late, that it would be interesting to see here. But yeah, as long as the Ravens win, Buffalo is in the playoffs no matter what. But if
teams show up different in the playoffs.
Right.
No matter what you think of them this year, they are still a scary opponent. That's a good point. They've got the experience
Very
almost
much.
like we do.
And Josh Allen has enough of that Mahomes. He has enough of the Mahomes ability to, when a play breaks down, but he also has the extra part where when he takes off running, he's like Derrick Henry out there. So, yeah. So, I mean, that's basically it. If the Ravens win, the Bills make the playoffs no matter what. If the Steelers win, and Jacksonville wins and the Dolphins win, the Bills are eliminated. But yeah, it's gonna kind of be. It looks like the 6th seed could be the Texans. The 6th seed could be the Colts. The 6th seed could be the Dolphins. I don't know how much more change there is in that. Texans, Colts, or Dolphins is kind of what it looks like here. Are the 3? Oh, nope. Here's a scenario where it could be the Bills. So Texans, Colts, Dolphins, or Bills. And that is if the Ravens and the Titans and the Dolphins all win. The Bills would be the 6th seed and come to Kansas City.
I like playing teams to make up for losses to them. So I wouldn't mind them. We already beat the Dolphins. I'm not scared of the Texans, even though Stroud's good. Like I said at the beginning of the year, he was going to be the best. I've never seen a more NFL ready QB. Personally.
Liz. All right. Dan is back. Dan says Driscoll is starting and confirms the Browns are locked as the 5th. All right, we're
good to see you, Dan.
All right, so
everybody go watch Dan Talks Football. Keys was on there yesterday.
Yep.
Like usual on Tuesdays.
Lately. So he's just backing up what we said. Jeff Driscoll is starting for the Browns in their game. So they're doing what we expect Kansas City to do and what we expect the Ravens to do, which is to rest their starters in this week 18 matchup, which, depending on how you look at it as fans, is either good or bad. Good or bad for football. But hey, listen, we all saw Bradley Chubb go down for the Dolphins in this last game, and he's gone for the year. Nobody wants that for their team right now, especially a week away from the playoffs. So, but yeah, Driscoll starting. The Browns are locked in as the 5 seed. It's all but a given that they're resting their starters here. Scott says, how about if the refs throw them all out, a double forfeit? Are we talking about if there was a tie for the Bills and Dolphins?
Sounds like if there was a fight.
But if they threw them all out, there would be a tie. So let me see what happens if there's a tie.
Now we're going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You gonna put it back up on screen?
No, I'll just look off screen here.
Okay.
if there is a tie, it looks like Miami is still a 2 seed. Let me see what happens. Even if the Jags lose, let's see what happens if the Ravens win. Yeah, it looks like if there is a tie, then Miami is the 2 seed no matter what. Which, yeah, because Buffalo is 10-6 right now. Miami is 11-5. So at 11-5-1, that would count as half a win for each, a half a win and a half a loss for each team. So Miami would have 11.5 wins to Buffalo's 10.5 wins. And so it looks pretty much like that would, it looks like that would lock Buffalo into the 6th seed. Like, no matter what, it looks like Buffalo would be the 6th seed if they tied, Scott. So they would be coming to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. Dan says if the Bills lose, they are out. Hey, Dan, we just put up the ESPN.
Unless Baltimore wins.
Yeah, we just put up the ESPN playoff machine, and the Bills can still be in losing this game. As long as Baltimore wins, the Bills are in the playoffs, period. There's not one scenario I see in here where Baltimore wins and the Bills are not in the playoffs. No matter what happens, all they need to happen to make the playoffs is for the Ravens to win. I just brought up a scenario here where even with the Steelers winning and the Dolphins winning, Buffalo is the 7 seed. And that's with the Jags winning. The Jags losing. So it looks like they either need the Titans to win or the Ravens to win. If either of those two happens, it doesn't matter anything else. No other game matters from what I'm seeing here. As long as the Titans or the Ravens win, Buffalo will make the playoffs, period. It's just a matter of seeding from that point. That's what the ESPN playoff machine is showing, that it's either Jags or the Ravens need to win. And if that happens, Buffalo can still lose and they'll make the playoffs no matter what. Thank you, Liz. Liz says, don't forget to like, share, and comment. Happy New Year, everyone. I will catch you on the next one. Girl Scouts honor. Liz, it's triggering to me that you would say that after we've already established how much good a Girl Scouts honor is good for. That was kind of a tongue twister.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Yes, that too. It costs you guys nothing. So to do any of those things, it's not something that we normally ask everyone to do. A lot of channels, it's like one of the first things out of their mouths. We always forget because it's not what's on our mind. Our mind is talking football and talking the chat and hanging out with you guys, but it does help the channel
and each other.
Help us grow. So, oh, Scott was talking about wanting the Raiders and Broncos to tie or fight, and everybody get kicked out.
I would love to see that. Might be fun to be there for it.
Hey, Scott, have a good one.
Denver. Then it's just going to be cold as hell. It's cold enough here.
We're glad you stopped in, Scott. Take it easy.
Great to see you, man.
I don't know how much longer we'll be going. I am back to work today. It was my first day back, so.
And my food is here.
Early morning, so kind of sucks. But
so I'm still going to be here, but I am going to eat.
All right. Well, I'll stay here as long as the chat is active here for a little bit. Otherwise, I I'm not sure how much longer I'll be here. I have to get up early. I still need to grab one more bite to eat before the end of the night. Going through the comments here. Aaron, are you getting some chocolate? I'm seeing a lot of chocolate in the comments here.
I got Arby's. There's not
Gooch,
really any.
Gooch had said he was the great one. Hannah says that her shakes make her the great one. We were talking about how Michael Jordan is the great one. We're talking about shakes.
Gotta love when Hannah makes it.
Are we talking about thin mint shakes with chocolate? Like I've seen some chocolate chunk thin mint shakes.
I got a mint chocolate chip cake that I need to at least try, if not eat it all. It's kind of a small cake, but it's going to be something to actually try to eat it all. I would share Hannah.
I don't think Gooch is going to jump back in here at all with us tonight. I think he left us with the bill.
Gooch is always on call, so not much he can do about that. He's trying to help out a store right now. They need his expertise.
Which is why he's the great one.
Don't tell him that.
He self-proclaimed himself the great one. That's what started all this great one conversation here. But hey, there's no doubt that Gooch is very talented at what he does, and that he's helped a lot of people and a lot of stores, and that there is a lot of good things ahead for Gooch and everything that he's doing. Michael Jordan's still the great one, though.
Yeah, have to agree.
So, Aaron, assuming we're right that we're going to see the starters sitting in this game, though I've still said Travis needs like 16 yards to get to 1,000.
Yes.
And I would like to see, this is what I said on Dan's show last night, that I'd like to see Andy spend about 8 hours to come up with one really good play to get Travis open so he can make about a 20-yard catch and get the hell out of the game.
Sounds perfect to me. Get him that 8th season.
Get him the yards, get him out. Like, there's got to be a way you can get him that one catch. Just to make it.
Well, Kareem Hunt did it a few years back to get the rushing title, but he was still denied the Rookie of the Year. Andy didn't have a problem with it exactly. He didn't exactly want to put him out there, but Hunt's like, just let me go out there. I'll get it real quick. And yeah, he got like a 30-something yard touchdown. So Andy doesn't usually have a problem with that.
Yeah, Andy's the player's coach. I think if Travis wants to be out there, like I said, though, make it quick and get him out. Just like, we don't need him to get injured any worse. He needs to rest up. You know, I don't think he's been completely healthy at any point this season. So hopefully just give him the week to heal up after he gets the 16 yards or so that he needs, which, I mean, realistically, it should only take one catch. Just come up with the play, run it to perfection. Rashee Rice is a different story because I think he needs like 67 yards, 66, 67 for his record. But yeah, what are you looking forward to in this game? Otherwise, what are you looking forward to out of the backups if we're right and that's what we see in this game? The backups playing.
I don't know. I don't really have any expectations for them. I'd like to see them play well, I guess is about it. And we can't rest everybody we want to, so who do we pick? I assume Jones won't be playing. Who on the defense? Or who else?
Yeah, Snead didn't even
McDuffie.
practice at all last week and then came in and played, so he should be resting.
He's been in this scheme long enough. We see how he's played all year. He will possibly be an all-pro this year. Yeah, McDuffie, I wouldn't mind resting him. I know he's young and all, but he doesn't need the practice.
Yeah, this game to me would be all about Tamari Connor.
Yes, I do want to see him.
Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, Leo Chanel, Jack Cochran, BJ Thompson, and FAU.
So we're resting Bolton and Gay.
I think I would as much as possible.
They've both been banged up some too, yeah.
Yeah. So Chris Jones.
What's going on with Tranquil though?
As far as
his injury is, he's probably not 100%.
He had a concussion. Is that what it is?
I think he's had more though. Linebackers they're the ones trying to tackle everybody. They seem to get messed up more than most. You always see them with the stingers and everything like that.
So here's my question for you, Aaron. Chris Jones has 9.5 sacks this season. One of the contract incentives as part of his reworked contract for this year that totally didn't pay off for his camp was to pay him, what is it, like $1.25 million if he got to 10 sacks.
That's kind of funny then.
He had incentives of $1 million for hitting 35% and 50% of snaps played. So he's gotten $2 million for those. It looks like those two, but he's a half a sack away from that $1.25 million incentive. If you are Kansas City, do you play him at all? And if not, do you go ahead and give him the $1.25 million incentive for being a half a sack away from what he was supposed to have to earn that incentive?
He didn't earn it, so no. I don't think they do. But
you don't think they do? Would you though?
Would I? Sure. I'd like him to want to stay around and be here. I'd rather it not just be for money or anything, but
Right. And I
yeah,
think
I don't know if that was the right decision on his part as far as holding out to change the contract around more than get it heightened. I don't know what the thinking was there. It sounds like his agents are not the greatest.
for sure they're not, but I think what you said there is kind of I think that's kind of the tell, right? If Because I think if they do want him back, if they want any chance of him playing in a Chiefs uniform in 2024, the 2024 season, I think you give him that incentive as a piece of goodwill. If they don't, I think that all but says they have no intentions of him playing in a Chiefs uniform ever again.
I can see that.
The thing is, and here's where I think it gets tricky though, Aaron, is I think you have to make that decision before this game. If you tell him that he is not playing in this game, that you're resting him, I think that affects the Chris Jones you get for the playoffs. Sadly to say, but I think it does.
I think you're right.
So I think we know by this game, like I think they have to make that decision by the game. Or at least by the wild card weekend. If it were me, it would be before then because I again, as much as it's sad to say, I think it in some way sways how dedicated he is during practice, his film study, everything throughout the Chiefs playoff run is going to be influenced one way or another. It's going to be tainted or, it's going to be uplifted by whether the Chiefs do this if they set him.
Or does Andy let him in for the first quarter like Travis? Which I kind of lean towards.
I think it's like different though, right? Because you can still pay him the incentive. Travis is more, it's a record, right? It's a statistical thing that isn't going to affect his pay. It's going to affect him being able to say 8 seasons of 1,000 yards or more versus, like Chris Jones, it's still going to say 9.5 sacks, right? It's just going to be, are you going to pay him the incentive? And it's like, is it worth the risk? Like even playing him a quarter in with the intentions of letting him see if he can get a half a sack.
And we know being in the trenches, it's pretty easy to get hurt.
Right. I mean, I think at best you could say, hey, you got one drive, to go out and try to get it. But I think it's just easier if you're the Chiefs to say, we'll just give you the 1.25 million.
Should I say, Chiefs, just go ahead and do it? Chances are he would have gotten a half sack if he was playing in this game. So
I think there's a good chance. I'm trying to see here what is considered, if I can find out what's likely to be earned. Oh, yeah, that's right. All the incentives added to a contract after the season become not likely to be earned for that season. So incentives aren't counted for this year's salary cap the way they structured it, because going against everything Brett Veach's front office has stood for, they gave him a void year next year where they tacked on for the purpose of that, taking advantage of that rule where if you sign it, you sign a new deal or restructure after the season has began, then all the incentives added into that contract automatically become not likely to be earned, which means they don't count on that year's salary cap. They're not factored into the team's salary cap. They're factored into the following season, which is the whole reason the Chiefs gave him that void year, so that mechanism could be taken advantage of.
But we have a lot of people to sign next year. Willie Gay, Bolton.
Right. And
There's
what
a bunch of them.
Sure about is, since he technically wouldn't be earning that incentive, whether they could still award him that incentive and it would still count on next year's salary cap versus this year's salary cap. Because we only have like 2.5 million in space. And so if they were to give him an incentive he didn't earn, again, I don't know how it works, but if they were to give him an incentive he didn't earn, and them doing so meant that I had to count on this year's cap, they would be cutting their space to like 1.25 million, which would not be good.
And you could run into an injury where you need somebody. And obviously in the playoffs, you need quality.
Even then, 2.5 million, which is the last number I saw a few days ago, isn't very much to sign anyone.
I don't think it's bad to sign for, 3 games?
And you could be right for a couple games. That might be perfectly fine. Let me see if I can find the total, because I thought I had it. Cap space according to Over the Cap is $2.49 million. So, yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure how that works out or what the mechanism would be for them to give him an incentive he didn't earn. So I'm not sure how to answer that as far as how it would affect this year's salary cap. But next year is next year, and I'm pretty sure that Patrick Mahomes' contract is going to get reworked, restructured, whatever. That something's going to be happening with it next year, just because of what all they've been doing and how it's been structured to begin with. But it's an interesting question, and I think Brett Veach and the front office have a lot of questions that they need to answer this coming off season, especially with all the free agents on the defensive side. You haven't been on here for a few weeks, so I'll ask you this, Aaron, because I know it's a popular question in Chiefs Kingdom. Assuming that it has to be one, if it was your call, are you bringing back Chris Jones or are you bringing back L'Jarius Sneed?
Sneed. I need that corner more than I need sacks, I guess. Corner that can shut everybody down the way he's been. They might get some catches, but he hasn't given up a touchdown. Knock on wood.
Yeah, a guy that I really was interested in the Chiefs going after in free agency, if they were to get rid of Chris Jones, was DJ Reader, and then he was lost for the season, and who knows if or when he'll play again next year. But I would still be interested in Christian Wilkins for the Dolphins. So I'll pose this question to you. I posed it to Dan a week or two ago and to Gooch, I think last week. what would you think, Aaron, about tagging Chris Jones and trading Chris Jones and our first round pick to the Vikings for Justin Jefferson?
I love Justin Jefferson. That would be amazing. Him and Rice and Travis.
Wrong button.
I'm for it. That kid's amazing. Just throw it up. And how much could we scheme him open? Put him in an Andy Reid offense? Yeah, I would love to see that.
I think, and it was something I caught on the broadcast the other night. What was that? Packers and Vikings? Who just played?
I think it's more of an even trade, though, than giving a first rounder, maybe a third. That's my only change to that.
So you think that Chris Jones and a first rounder is too much?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think if you look at Justin Jefferson's production, and he's what?
Compared to this 9.5 sacks, which he's been hurt this year. I'm not sure what he got this year. I didn't have him in fantasy like I did last year.
He's definitely been hurt this year, so there's definitely a little bit there. He will be 25 next season. He's 24 right now. He turns 25 in June. Chris Jones is going to turn 30 in July. So you're talking a 5-year difference between them. So there's kind of a big age factor there. I think the money
that is a good point
that they both are asking for is going to be pretty similar. But I think that's kind of the bigger thing, right? If you're the Vikings and you trade for Chris Jones, you don't want to have to pay him the same amount of money that Justin Jefferson, who's 20 or who's 5 years younger, was wanting as well. And maybe that's changed because Jones is getting older. He bet on himself a bit and kind of lost this season. And it wasn't because of Spags' scheme. His DBs were making quarterbacks hold on to the ball, giving all of them chances to collect on sacks. So, it's not like the DBs let him down on this, but I don't know. A third doesn't seem like enough. If you were, I guess this is how let me ask it from a different way though. If you didn't put Chris Jones in a trade for Justin Jefferson, what would you offer up for Justin Jefferson? Like draft picks. Like how many and what draft picks would you trade for him?
I would think you'd have to do like a first, second, and third. Isn't that what Harvin got a few years back? Several years back now, but Percy Harvin.
Yeah, let me look it up here. Let's see. Percy Harvin got traded from the Vikings to the Seahawks for a first and a seventh that season, and then a third the following season. So a first, a seventh, and a following season third.
Okay, I thought it was more than that. I must be thinking of somebody else. But Percy Harvin was running back / receiver. They used him as a running back quite a bit.
Minnesota has a history of trading wide receivers. Let me look up see if I can find the details here from the Stephon Diggs trade. I think that's probably a better comp anyway.
Yeah.
Because he was wanting big money. Let's see.
There's also Randy Moss, which, he's not on that level. Or is he?
So Diggs, Minnesota got back the number 22nd overall pick in the 2020 draft, a 5th rounder that same year, a 4th rounder the following year. So yeah, a 22nd overall, a 5th that year, and a 4th the following year. So I don't know. Do you think Justin Jefferson is better than Stephon Diggs was at the time of that trade?
I believe he was last year, but I think Diggs outshined him this year with the games he missed. But Diggs has been pretty good, I'd say.
So he was 27, I want to say, at the time of that trade. He's 30. Stephon Diggs is 30 now. He just turned 30 in November. So he would have been 29, 28, 27 in November of 2020. That trade was in 2020. So he was 26, about to turn 27. Justin Jefferson is 24, about to turn 25. So there's a 2-year difference in age there as well. But yeah, I think one of the things that would make Justin Jefferson a good trade target is the fact that, as you said, his route running. And I know on the broadcast the other night, the crew brought up how great he is at all the adjustments that they have in that offense. Like he is great at making his adjustments once he sees the defensive coverage. That is something that has been the biggest issue of all the Chiefs wide receivers, is their inability to identify the coverages post snap and to make the proper adjustment in their route, because Andy Reid's routes have read adjustments in them, right? And so to me, that makes him a great fit. You have, as Gooch would say, the age factor. He's only 24. You have that part of it, that he can do that. And that is a big thing that Andy Reid asks for in his receivers. He catches the freaking ball, and he's in the NFC, so you don't have to worry about, that part of it. He's in the NFC, and he's not in your, he's not in your division. So the Chiefs have a little bit of history there trading with the Vikings. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe a first and Chris Jones is too much. If you think Chris Jones is worth a first or late round first, or, a second and a fourth or whatever, maybe there's some merit to that. Minnesota got the 22nd overall for Stephon Diggs. Kansas City, the way we're looking right now, it could be the 25th, 26th, 27th overall pick. We'd all be happy if we ended up with the 32nd overall pick.
Yes.
But it could be closer to that 22nd overall pick.
I think that range was pretty good, though, a third or second and fourth.
And hey, listen, if that was the case and they were willing to do that, I mean, it just makes it easier, because then, you could theoretically trade Chris Jones to a different team and recoup a first round pick, or, a top of the second round pick, and still come out, nearly the same thing.
Right.
And let's see, the way the draft order looks right now, a team that might like Chris Jones. What about Detroit? Chris Jones next to Aiden Hutchinson would be killer for Detroit. If they missed out in the playoffs this year, as great as they've looked and as close as they've came, if you're Detroit, do you make that move? Or even Cleveland? Could you imagine Myles Garrett and Chris Jones on the same defensive line? You have two guys that you would want to double team. Obviously, I would rather see him go to Detroit as an NFC foe, right? As opposed to having him stay in the AFC.
Absolutely.
But right now, Detroit's projected to have the 27th overall pick, and Kansas City is projected to have the 25th overall pick. That's based off of current records right now. But yeah, I mean, there's still a way that theoretically, depending on what the value is for Chris Jones, that you could trade him for an into the first round pick to a team like Detroit, maybe even a team like Dallas. And I haven't looked at Dallas's cap. I'm pretty sure Detroit has a lot of money to spend next year. But yeah, like even a team like Dallas, if they make it only so far and they lose, you know how Jerry Jones is. Would you like to add Chris Jones to your defense with Micah Parsons there? Hell yeah, you would.
Yeah.
So there could be a pathway there where you could trade your first and a third, or maybe even your first and a second, and get back Justin Jefferson and a third, and still recoup a first or a top of the round second for Chris Jones. Of course, if you wanted to keep L'Jarius Sneed, then it's imperative that you get him locked up before free agency begins. And I don't know how amenable he is to that, which means now I got to check out who his agents are.
That's not a bad idea to check out. Yeah, I would love for him to stay. I would love to keep both of them, but I don't think you can. They're both primary positions, pass rush and corner. I mean, he's been following the best guy all year, even though we have McDuffie. It's not easy to find that kind of talent at quarter compared to defensive line.
So, there's a couple things in this discussion. One of them is people like to point out that Brett Veach and the front office do not invest in cornerbacks. They let them walk, right? Charvarius Ward, they let him walk.
He had a good season. And yeah, I was going to bring up Ward that he had a really good season and they still let him walk. But
I would counter that,
he wasn't
right?
Sneed good.
No, exactly. He wasn't Sneed good. And he was, in a way, he was sneaky good, but he still had some obvious deficiencies that I don't think we've seen from L'Jarius Sneed.
Timing.
Where Spags can use Sneed in so many different ways.
Yes.
And Ward was never a guy who was going to do what L'Jarius Sneed has done this season.
Right. He followed the best guy, but how many touchdowns did he give up compared to 0?
For all those years, we would yell, turn around and look for the ball.
Yes. And
so, yeah, I mean, there's that part to it. But, and then as Gooch would say if he was here, and Brett Veach doesn't like to sign guys who are like past 27 years old, which would include someone like Chris Jones, who's going to be 30. But But as Dan has been hinting at for the last few months or so, after I started talking about Joe Cullen and some of the different defensive line pieces Kansas City has been bringing in, Dan is convinced that we are shifting to a 3-4 defense, which would mean you could let Chris Jones go. I think that Joe Cullen and Steve Spagnuolo know that they can scheme up a defensive line without Chris Jones. You can't really look at game one and be like, well, look at game one. Well, they didn't really know if he was going to play or not. Like building a scheme around not having a player is a completely different thing.
Than rebuilding for a certain scheme.
Right. But the last thing is, I think it was Mitch Schwartz, Aaron, and this is kind of it was an interesting take when I saw it. Like it made me pause because I hadn't really thought about it. But Mitch Schwartz had a tweet and he said something to the effect of, not that it's either or, but, and this was in regards to Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed. Someone talking about Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed and should they try to bring back both of them, or if it's only one. And one of the things that Mitch Schwartz said was basically, listen, Brett Veach needs to invest in the offense this offseason. And he wasn't saying only the offense. He was saying that the offense needs to be where the priority lies.
The focus.
As far as the use of assets, financial, draft capital, it needs to be geared towards the offense. And his justification was, we have now seen this team with a dominant top offense for multiple seasons. We've now seen what this team looks like, with a dominant offense and an okay average, whatever you want to call it, defense for multiple years. And we've now seen this team with a great dominating defense and an okay offense. And it's like, which one would you rather have? And that was kind of his justification. Hey, listen, if you can make it all work, great. But if you can only choose one, his point was, you should be choosing to invest in the offense, because we've seen what this team looks like, what this team's capable of with a top offense. And it's much prettier looking than this team with a top defense and a just okay offense. And I find that really hard. Like, I can't argue against that, because he's 100% right, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
As much as I hate it, as much as I hated, we won this last week, and as much as I hated 5 field goals from Harrison Butker, as much as I hated it, hashtag Marty Ball, that's exactly what we saw. We saw that through the 90s. How many championships did we get in the 90s with Joe Montana as our quarterback?
Was he only here one season, though?
I think it was 93 to 95, wasn't it? I'll look it up for you.
Did he play that long here?
Oh, I thought so.
I remember him getting knocked out, and I thought that was the
2
first
years.
year.
93 and 94.
So was it the second year that we made it to the championship? And he got knocked out, I believe, by the Bills. He had so many concussions before that. That's kind of why San Francisco got rid of him, I think.
Yeah, he didn't play at all in 1991. He played one game in 1992. Then he came to Kansas City in 1993.
I do have to run and get ready for work. It's great to see everybody. Great to see you, Steve. Sorry
me
I missed
too,
Gooch by minutes. Have a good one. Happy New Year. We'll be back.
Yep. And with that said, we want to thank you guys for watching, and want to invite you guys back here next week. Same back time, same back channel. Have a good one.
You got your team, and we got a kingdom. Ready for war, we score at will. We're the Super Bowl champs, the king of the hill.